if you've been following the channel, you may have noticed that I do everything from the terminal, from things as simple as to check the date, to maybe editing text files with Cocoon. Now, the terminal is very simple. First of all, you place the application name, and everything else will be arguments that the application is going to interpret in its own way. Every application interprets them differently. But you have, for instance, the change directory command, which might leave you into other folders, and the copy command, remove directory. All of them are very intuitive. Make directory, then I use Z, which is an application utility to jump through different places quickly. And yeah, overall everything can be done from the terminal, or at least calling the application that will get the job done. SXIB, for instance, is the application I use to view images, and MPV will be to play videos and things like that. So there is, and of course EASI is the file picker in the case that I need some sort of user interface for whatever I'm doing. And NCMP is for playing music. Alright, so now knowing that, I'm going to show real quick how to set up an environment like mine. I mainly use DWM to manage my windows with the menu, which is the application that manages the workspace, and well, it's the application that I use to run other apps like Firefox, for instance. Can be run through the menu. I only need to call it, and then this bar will appear, and I can just start typing. And DWM is what manages the windows, so it's what allows me to open up new windows, to close windows, and to move through them. And also what helps me interact with workspaces. Right. And of course, then there's the simple terminal, which is the terminal that I'm using. It's very lightweight. It does exactly what you expect it to do, and even less. I really recommend these two tools. I recommend both DWM and simple terminal because they are the simplest available. Now, I know it sounds like a weak point at first, but this is really all you need for the average computer usage, and even the advanced computer usage. And while all of these new tools try to do so many different things at once, it's most likely that you don't want them to do half of the things they are doing. And not only they do too much, but they are slow and clunky and frankly unintuitive. While if you keep things as simple as possible, you can more or less expect how they're going to behave. And that's why I'm going to be showing how to install simple terminal and DWM, which is a very weird process, but I'll go slowly and I'll explain every single step. Well, first of all, I'm going to be cloning the simple terminal. So we just git clone into the repository link, and now we access the website, the folder that we just cloned with cd. Now you're going to find a bunch of files here, the files of the repository, and whenever you're ready, all you need. Excuse me. So the first thing to do when the repository is cloned is, first of all, access the directory, make sure that you are inside of the st directory, and then run make, which is a tool, a utility, that's used for running scripts to compile programs. That way you don't have to do the hard work yourself. So we run make, and that's going to create config.h. Now, for config.h, you will see that there are things like the font, the border size, and other things. This is C code. This is C code that is directly compiled every time you compile the program. These are just C variables if you've ever written C before. So it's not a configuration file like the ones you will be used to. But at the same time, it works like one, because it's only allowing you to modify values that are meant to be modified. It's giving you a very surface, a very brief look onto it. So for instance, I could change the pixel size of the default font for 24 and change the name of the font to Josepka term, which is the font that I'm using right now. And then in order to compile this, I only have to run doas make clean install. And the next terminal that I open is going to have the configuration applied. So as you can see, the color scheme is different, and the border size is different as well. Like, this one has a lot more space around than this one. And this is because of the border px value. Like, all I have to do is change it from 2 to 20 and it's going to be back to normal. But you probably don't want that. That depends on your environment. I also want to change the theme of this thing, and to do that I need to scroll down into the color name array. This is the basic scene palette that the terminal uses, and these are the default colors. So what I'm going to do, and what I always do, is to copy everything, and now create a new file. It's called themes, and add default.h. Save everything here, and back to config.h. I will include this file, and there I have it. Now just do a make clean install, and everything has been compiled again. And this is because I do this because this way I'm including all the contents inside of the default.h file, and if I ever wanted to change the color scheme to something else, I could just change the name of save it in a different file and change the name, like let's call it theme.h, and if there was a file called theme.h, I could be using it right now. Now let's change the theme. Like, right now this is how the terminal looks, but we can make it change. We can make it change the look by running a program that's called pywal. Pywal is probably in your repositories, so you probably can install it from the package manager, or otherwise you can use pip, which is the package manager of Python. So I'm going to use wall into one of my wallpaper files. And as you can see, not only my wallpaper has changed into this new file that I selected, but my entire terminal color scheme has changed as well. Now this is only for trying themes. I could also make it a little more saturated by changing the saturation value. Just in case I want to more contrast between the colors. Now with that there, you can access these colors by going into Cache, Wall, and then choosing the one of the thing that you're using. If you even have CSS for this. So there's one for the menu, one for DWM, and one for ST. These three are the ones that are useful to us. So let's go into st.h. Oh, I mistyped that. So I'm going to copy everything here and go into themes and theme.h. And there we have it. Now in the themes, instead of including default.h, we change it for theme.h. And also I have, no, this is fine. And there it is. It's the, now I managed to change the color of the new terminal. Now, this process is very simple. As you saw, most configuration applications are already available here, so all you really need to do is to scroll a little and play around with things. In fact, there is a very simple way to change your cursor in case you don't want the default block, and here it gives you the options and everything in a command. So yeah, I really recommend just scrolling around, checking the options that are available, and maybe changing a couple of bindings. Now I'm going to do something a little more complicated with ST, and that is adding a way to scroll up, because otherwise you can never look up in ST, like ever. Like if I were to, let's say, open this file, there is no way for me to see what's above. Like granted, I could send the contents into less, which is an application for reading text content, and that way I could sort of scroll, but it's not the same. You're not doing it directly from the terminal, and that can be a problem at times. So I'm going to be showing you how to patch your Sackless applications. It's very simple, but it often needs a little bit of manual work. So I'm going to open the hacking guidelines because I'm going to need them in a second, and look for scrollback, which is one of the patches of ST. You can find it by going in ST patches and scrollback. So we get the patch file and we save it into the directory where we have ST. So if I go back here, I can see ST scrollback. And in order to patch it, well, you can take a look at the hacking guidelines if you want, but the way I do it is patch p1, the less than sign, and the name of the patch, and it applied. As the log is telling us, there is one hunk that failed. That means that one of the changes could not be done because it was expecting something different from what it found. And the rejects, like the changes that could not be done, have been saved in a specific file. It's called st.c.reg in this time. So we open it, and you can see the changes that were supposed to happen that didn't. The files that start with a minus, well, the lines that start with a minus are lines that were meant to be removed, while the ones that start with a plus are lines that have to be added. This tells us the name of the file that the changes are happening, and this the position in that file. So we're going to go there, 190G, and there we have them. These are the values that were supposed to change. Now, in this case, the reject was only telling us to add an additional int into them, so I'm not even going to copy paste anything. I'll just do it this way. And if we run make, everything is working. There is no errors. There are no errors. All right. So for some reason, the changes are first introduced in config.def.h. I don't know why exactly is that, but after doing this, just copy. You may want to take a look at the new changes in config.def.h instead of copying everything. Like in this case, this has changed. Yeah, I don't really know how to explain this part. There are a couple of changes that have been added here. Specifically, these ones are the ones that matters to us. In the shortcuts array, a couple new shortcuts have been added, and these are to scroll. Like, I know this because I've done it before, but otherwise you can take a look at the patch and try to figure it out. So we're going to go to shortcuts and hold on. Add them. There we go. Oh, wait, those are for the mouse. Wrong place. So we have the shortcuts here. I'm also going to change the mask. I don't want this to be enabled when you press shift. I only want it to be enabled when you're pressing Ctrl and Shift. And I'm also going to change the keys for this into J and K. So every time I press Ctrl Shift K or Ctrl Shift J, I'm going to be scrolling. Do as make clean install. Every time I press Ctrl Shift K or Ctrl Shift J, the scroll back functions are going to be executed. And that's patching. That's literally what patching is. Now it can get a little more complicated depending on what you have. Like if there is a very long reject, and you might have to figure out which things to remove and how to remove them in order to add the new functionalities without removing the ones that were there before. So I recommend being very careful with patching. Now, as for the other ones, like we've done simple terminal, but for DWM, for instance, it's more or less the same thing, really. We run make first, and then in config.h we can change the fonts, we can change the keys, and like the keybinds, and we can also change the colors, which are, hold up, here, these will be the colors. So same thing here. You can just copy all of the colors, create a themes folder, default.h, copy everything, then go back to the original file, hashtag include themes/default.h, and that's going to make, yeah, same thing as earlier. And if you wanted to change the colors to something else, you can just change the name of this file and of course create it. And same thing goes for the menu. You open the menu, make, and then as you can see, there's also colors here that you can save separately. Remember that if you're using pywal, there is this cache directory .cache/wall, and there you have the colors for the menu, DWM, ST, everything. So although it is a little bit intimidating to set up your Suckless tools, it's actually not that hard. Like, it's a very simple process, and once you get the hang of it, it's still difficult because it's hard to find information at times. But for simple stuff, it's really not that hard, and pretty much everyone can do it. Alright, that was everything to be said. Before ending this, I forgot to mention how I run DWM and how to store the background permanently. So there's a file in your home directory called xeditorc, and in xeditorc I run a couple of commands. Here there's the fauux command, which fills the background with the image that I have saved in this location, and then I execute DWM with this. So that this line, by the way, has to be at the end of the file. xeditorc is only going to run when you have the kind of environment where you start with a terminal black screen and then you need to run startx in order to, open up the window manager, the terminal and everything. If you're using a login manager, like some sort of display manager as they call it, although it's technically not a display manager, then this is not going to work and you're going to have another way to set initial scripts. But this is the way to do it, in case it's helpful.